the reconciliation. You want to make sure it's correct and accurate, and then trace that amount back to the trial balance to ensure that the trial balance includes the correct amount. So that's your audit of cash. As I said, confirmations are now done electronically, and as pointed out, most banks, especially the major banks, they won't even confirm. They're not even going to look at a paper confirmation. They won't even respond to it, and they tell their customers that we only do electronic confirmations. And so, but in any event, the auditor has to control it, whether it's electronic or whether it's a paper, right? So what are some of the what's some of the pros and cons of an electronic confirmation? Let's start with the pros. What's good about electronic confirmations, do you think?
They can be traced back. That's where when they send an e-confirm, it's there.
Right. So I think what Ricardo's trying to say is that when there are electronic confirmations, you know it's going to the bank, right? You know it's going to a debt, because in setting up these electronic confirmations, the bank will have designated, right, that there is, that this is where the confirmations are going, that they have a person or department that handles those confirmations. So you know that it's going to a legitimate person in that banking organization. Right. Right, it's more timely, right, because it's not less paperwork. John, same thing, right? What are some of the negatives, do you think? Any negatives? Electronic confirmations? You don't think there are any negatives?
There is negatives.
But you just don't know what it is. Well, so what you're dealing with, right, is now we're in, again, it's technology. And so you as an auditor, like, because there are different, clearing houses, right? What you don't know as an auditor is that black box, right? Because you don't get to audit that black box because that's not your client. So what you don't know what kind of controls exist or what kind of security they have over that process. So what you would do is get what we call a audit report, like it's SOP 78, I think, but I can't remember the exact number. But you get basically a report from the clearinghouse about their controls. Well, their auditors will issue, because they expect this, right? Their auditors will issue a report about the controls, for that, let's say the clearinghouse, and an auditor would request that report. And they would review that report to see that there are no significant control deficiencies. So that's one of the drawbacks, is that you don't have control over that. You can't go in and audit it. So you're relying on the fact that the controls that exist and the security that exists in terms of, because you only know what's coming out of that process, right? And so you're relying that there are controls in place to control that the output from that process. So standard banks. You can also, and getting with these standard bank confirmations, you're going to also request information about potential contingent liabilities, right? So if the company has an outstanding line of credit, if they have any loan agreements or contingencies, contingent liabilities or secure transactions. Remember we talked about the fact that, you talked about the secured credit facility in one of the cases, right? So that information you'd also request on the bank confirmation. I already talked about this. So many banks, as was pointed out, require this, and you complete it electronically. The professional standards have been expanded to allow this to be an acceptable form